The distress call. The vast expanse of space had never felt so oppressive. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, her eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. The swirling mass of stars and nebulae might have been beautiful if not for the blinking red indicator that represented a civilization on the brink of annihilation. "Play it again, comms," Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the tension coiling in her gut. Lieutenant Raj Patel nodded, his fingers dancing across the console. A moment later, a desperate voice filled the bridge, speaking in the universal trade language. "This is High Counselor Zix Era of the Illyrian Confederation. Our worlds burn. Our people die. The swarm devours all in its path. We beg any who hear this, help us. We have little time left." The message cut off abruptly, replaced by static. Sarah closed her eyes, allowing herself a moment to process the raw fear in the alien's voice. When she opened them again, her resolve was iron. "Status report," she barked. Her XO, Commander Diego Alvarez, stepped forward. "Captain, we're the only ship in range to respond in time. The rest of the fleet is still tied up with reconstruction efforts back home. High Command has given us full autonomy on this mission." Sarah nodded, unsurprised. Earth and her colonies were still reeling from the brutal war that had nearly wiped out humanity just a decade ago. Resources were stretched thin, and venturing into an unknown conflict was a risk few were willing to take. But Sarah remembered all too well the feeling of fighting alone against an overwhelming force. The scars on her body and the nightmares that plagued her sleep were constant reminders. "What do we know about these Illyrians?" she asked. Science Officer Dr. Amelia Okoye brought up a holo display. "Not much, I'm afraid. They're a peaceful species, primarily focused on art and philosophy. Their technology is advanced, but they have little in the way of weapons or defenses. They've managed to stay out of most galactic conflicts, until now." Sarah's lips thinned. "And this swarm?" Amelia shook her head. "No concrete data. Based on the name and the Illyrian distress call, we're likely dealing with some kind of hive mind species. Extremely aggressive, possibly driven by resource acquisition or territorial expansion. So we're going in blind." Sarah mused. It wasn't an ideal situation. But then again, when had humanity ever faced ideal odds? She turned to her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka. "Yuki, what's our combat readiness?" Yuki's response was crisp and efficient. "All systems are green, Captain. Shields at 100%, weapons fully charged. The new quantum torpedoes are online and ready for their first field test." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Defiant was humanity's latest and greatest warship, a testament to their ability to adapt and overcome. Born from the ashes of their near extinction, it incorporated both human ingenuity and reverse-engineered alien tech. "All right, people," Sarah addressed her crew, her voice carrying the weight of command. "I know we're all thinking the same thing. We've been here before. We know what it's like to face annihilation, to feel abandoned by the universe." She paused, making eye contact with each officer on the bridge. "But we also know what it's like to survive against all odds, to fight back when everyone else has given up. That's what we're going to do for the Illyrians." A chorus of "Aye, Captain" echoed across the bridge, determination evident in every voice. "Plot a course for the Illyrian home system, maximum warp," Sarah ordered. "And send a message back to Earth. Tell them humanity stands with those in need. Always." As the Defiant surged into warp, leaving the safety of known space behind, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on the irony of the situation. Just a few years ago, humanity had been on the verge of extinction, their pleas for help ignored by the galactic community. Now, they were the ones answering the call. The journey to Illyrian space was tense, filled with preparation and speculation. The crew of the Defiant ran countless simulations, trying to anticipate what they might face. Sarah spent hours poring over what little information they had on the Illyrians and their part of space. As they neared their destination, Raj's console lit up. "Captain, we're picking up multiple distress signals. It's not good." The main view screen flickered to life, showing a star system in chaos. Planets glowed an angry red, their surfaces scarred by orbital bombardments. The space between worlds was littered with debris, the remnants of a civilization's last stand. And there, at the heart of it all, was the swarm, a seething mass of biomechanical ships, more numerous than stars, descending upon the last vestiges of Illyrian resistance. Sarah's jaw clenched. They were too late to save everyone, but maybe, just maybe, they could still make a difference. "Red alert," she commanded, her voice cutting through the stunned silence on the bridge. "All hands to battle stations. We're going in." As klaxons blared and the crew scrambled to their posts, Sarah Chen stood tall, her eyes fixed on the carnage ahead. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and survived. Now it was time to bring that same fire, that same indomitable spirit, to those who needed it most. The UES Defiant plunged into the fray, a lone ship against an ocean of enemies. But within its hull burned the fury of a species that refused to go quietly into the night, and they would teach the swarm the true meaning of fear. Unlikely heroes. The UES Defiant dropped out of warp on the outskirts of the Illyrian system, its sudden appearance causing a ripple of confusion among the swarm forces. Captain Sarah Chen wasted no time. "Tactical analysis," she barked. Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka's fingers flew across her console. The swarm vessels appear to be a mix of capital ships and smaller, drone-like craft. Their weapons are primarily energy-based, with some form of corrosive projectiles. No signs of shielding technology, but their hulls seem to regenerate rapidly. Sarah nodded, her mind already formulating strategies. Weaknesses. "Their coordination suggests a hive mind," Yuki replied. "If we can disrupt their communications, we might be able to throw them into disarray." "Good. Helm, take us in." Evasive pattern Delta. Weapons target the largest concentrations of enemy ships. Let's give them something to think about. The Defiant surged forward, its advanced engines allowing it to dance between enemy formations with breathtaking agility. Quantum torpedoes streaked out, detonating in brilliant flashes that vaporized dozens of swarm ships at a time. On the main view screen, Sarah watched as the massive alien fleet began to turn its attention away from the battered Illyrian defenses and towards this new, unexpected threat. "Captain," Raj called out, his voice tight with urgency, "I'm picking up a transmission from the surface of the third planet. It's the Illyrian leadership." "Put them through," Sarah ordered. The face that appeared on the screen was alien yet somehow familiar in its expression of desperate hope. High Counselor Zixara's large, multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly as she took in the sight of the human bridge crew. "Unknown vessel," Zixara said, her translator struggling to keep up with her rapid speech. We did not expect anyone to come. Who are you?" Sarah stepped forward, her posture straight and proud. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Ship Defiant. We received your distress call and came to help." Zixara's antenna quivered in what Sarah hoped was a positive reaction. "Humans, we had heard your species was recovering from your own war. Why would you risk yourselves for us?" A sad smile crossed Sarah's face. "Because we know what it's like to stand alone against annihilation. No one should have to face that alone." The Illyrian leader seemed to sag with relief. "Thank you, Captain Chen. But I fear you may have come too late. The swarm has already taken most of our outer colonies. The transmission cut off abruptly as the Defiant rocked under enemy fire. "Shields holding at 87%, Yuki reported. "They're concentrating their attack on our starboard side." Sarah's mind raced. They couldn't win this fight alone, not against such overwhelming numbers. But maybe they didn't have to. "Comms, get that transmission back," she ordered. "And prepare to send tactical data to any Illyrian ships still capable of fighting." As Raj worked to reestablish contact, Sarah turned to her XO. "Diego, What do we know about Illyrian technology? Anything we can use. Commander Alvarez consulted his datapad. Their weapons are mostly defensive in nature, designed to repel asteroids and space debris. But wait, they have some incredibly advanced sensor arrays. If we could link those up with our targeting systems. Sarah nodded, a plan forming. Do it. And get engineering working on a way to boost our comm range. If we can disrupt the swarm's hive mind, we might just have a chance. The bridge erupted into a flurry of activity as orders were relayed and ideas exchanged. The Defiant continued its dance through space, its weapons blazing a path of destruction through the swarm's ranks. Finally, Zixera's face reappeared on the screen, looking shaken but determined. Captain Chen, we've received your tactical data. Our remaining ships are moving to support you, but I fear it won't be enough. It will be, Sarah assured her. High Counselor, we need access to your sensor networks. We have a plan, but we'll need to work together. For a moment, Zixera hesitated, centuries of peaceful isolation warring with the desperate need for survival. Then she nodded. Very well, Captain. What do you need us to do? Over the next hour, as the battle raged around them, humans and Illyrians worked feverishly to integrate their technologies. The Defiant's advanced targeting systems, when combined with the incredibly precise Illyrian sensors, allowed them to pick off swarm ships with surgical precision. But it wasn't enough. For every swarm vessel they destroyed, 10 more seemed to take its place. The Illyrian ships, brave but outmatched, were being picked off one by one. Captain, Yuki called out, her voice strained. Our shields are down to 40%. We can't take much more of this. Sarah gripped the arms of her command chair, her knuckles white. They needed something more, something unexpected. And then it hit her. Engineering. She snapped into her comm. I need you to overload our warp core. Not enough for detonation, but I want every scrap of energy you can give me without tearing us apart. Chief Engineer Lai Wei's voice came back, a mix of excitement and concern. Captain, that's incredibly risky. The core wasn't designed for that kind of output. Neither was humanity designed to survive extinction, Chief. But here we are. Make it happen. As Wei and his team worked their magic, Sarah turned to her science officer. Amelia, I need you to work with the Illyrians. Find a way to modulate that energy burst to match the frequency of the swarm's hive mind communications. Amelia's eyes widened as she grasped the plan. You're going to try to overload their neural network. Captain, that's brilliant. And completely insane. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. That's humanity for you. Now make it happen. The next few minutes were a blur of frantic activity. The Defiant shuddered under constant enemy fire, its shields flickering dangerously. Illyrian ships formed a protective cordon around the human vessel, buying them the time they desperately needed. Energy modulation ready, Amelia reported. Core at maximum safe overload, Wei's voice added over the comm. Sarah took a deep breath. This was it. Their one shot at turning the tide. All power to forward emitters, she ordered. Illyrian fleet, fall back to minimum safe distance. And may whatever gods you believe in be with us all. With a thought that was half prayer and half defiance, Sarah gave the final command. Fire. The Defiant's forward section lit up like a newborn star. A wave of pure energy, precisely modulated to match the swarm's neural frequency, burst forth. It washed over the enemy fleet like a tsunami of light. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, swarm ships began to falter. Some spun out of control, colliding with their fellows. Others simply went dark, drifting lifelessly in space. The wave expanded, reaching further and further into the swarm armada. Thousands of ships, then tens of thousands, fell silent. On the bridge of the Defiant, the crew watched in awe as their desperate gambit paid off. The seemingly invincible swarm was thrown into chaos, their hive mind shattered by the human-Illyrian alliance's ingenuity. As the remnants of the swarm fleet began to retreat, a cheer went up from both human and Illyrian ships. They had done it. Against all odds, they had survived. Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief before turning to her crew. Well done, everyone. But this isn't over yet. We've bought the Illyrians some time, but the swarm will be back. And next time, they'll be ready for us. She looked out at the starfield, now littered with the debris of battle. Our job now is to make sure that when they do return, they'll face not just humanity, not just the Illyrians, but a united galaxy ready to stand against them. As the adrenaline of battle began to fade, Sarah Chen realized that this was just the beginning. Humanity had taken its first steps onto a larger stage, and the universe would never be the same. The art of human warfare. In the days following the initial battle, the UES Defiant became the center of a flurry of activity. The ship's hangar bay, originally designed to house squadrons of fighter craft, had been transformed into an impromptu command center. Here, human officers worked alongside Illyrian strategists, sharing knowledge and developing plans for the inevitable return of the swarm. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the heart of it all, her keen eyes taking in the organized chaos around her. Holograms flickered in the air, displaying star charts, weapon schematics, and simulation results. The atmosphere was tense, but charged with a sense of purpose that transcended species barriers. "Captain," a melodic voice called out. Sarah turned to see Zixera approaching, the Illyrian leader's movements graceful despite the gravity difference. "Your crew's adaptability continues to amaze me. In mere days, you've integrated our sensor technology with your weapon systems in ways we never imagined possible." Sarah nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Necessity is the mother of invention, High Counselor. It's a very human trait to find creative solutions when our backs are against the wall." Zixera's antenna twitched in what Sarah had come to recognize as a sign of curiosity. "Tell me, Captain, how did your species survive its own brush with extinction? The records we have are incomplete." For a moment, Sarah's eyes clouded with memories. "It wasn't easy," she said softly. "We lost billions. Entire continents were rendered uninhabitable. But in our darkest hour, we found strength we didn't know we had." She gestured to the busy hangar. "We learned to put aside old rivalries, to pool our resources and knowledge. We scavenged technology from our fallen enemies and combined it with our own innovations. In short, we refused to go quietly into the night." Zixera was silent for a long moment, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the holographic displays. "Perhaps," she said at last, "that is what my people need to learn. We have been peaceful for so long, we have forgotten how to fight for our existence." Before Sarah could respond, an alarm blared through the hangar. Lieutenant Raj Patel's voice came over the comm system, tight with urgency. "Captain, to the bridge. We're detecting swarm activity at the edge of the system." Sarah was moving before the message finished. Zixera close behind. They arrived on the bridge to find the crew already at battle stations, the main view screen showing a mass of swarm ships emerging from faster-than-light travel. "Report," Sarah barked, sliding into her command chair. Commander Diego Alvarez stepped forward, his face grim. "Long-range sensors show a force at least twice the size of the previous attack. They've adapted their ships' hulls to resist our energy weapons, and their formation suggests they've developed countermeasures for our disruption tactics." Sarah's mind raced, analyzing the situation. The swarm had clearly learned from their previous encounter, but so had the human-Illyrian alliance. It was time to show them the true art of human warfare. "Tactical, prepare to implement guerrilla protocol," she ordered. "Com, signal the Illyrian fleet. Tell them to fall back to their homeworld and concentrate on planetary defense." As her crew rushed to comply, Sarah turned to Zixera. "High Counselor, I need your people to trust us. What we're about to do may seem unorthodox." Zixera's antenna quivered, but her voice was steady. "You have earned our trust, Captain Chen. What do you need from us?" Sarah's eyes gleamed with determination. your best pilots and engineers. We're going to teach the swarm the meaning of fear." Over the next few hours, as the swarm fleet approached, a daring plan was put into motion. Illyrian ships, guided by human tactical officers, laid mines throughout the system's asteroid belts. The Defiant's shuttle bay was a hive of activity as mixed human-Illyrian teams modified small craft for stealth and speed. When the swarm finally entered the inner system, they found not a united defensive line, but a series of hit-and-run attacks that seemed to come from nowhere. The Defiant danced through space, its advanced engines allowing it to strike and vanish before the enemy could respond. Illyrian ships, cloaked with hastily adapted human stealth technology, ambushed swarm stragglers. But the true surprise came from the asteroid fields. As swarm ships pursued their elusive prey, they triggered the hidden mines. But these were no ordinary explosives. Each detonation released a cloud of nanites, specifically designed to target the swarm's biomechanical systems. On the bridge of the Defiant, Sarah watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. "This is how humanity survived," she said to Zixara, who stood wide-eyed beside her. "We learned to fight smarter, not just harder. To use our environment, to strike where the enemy least expects it." The Illyrian leader's voice was filled with awe. "It's beautiful in a terrible way, like watching the dance of cosmic forces." As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn. The swarm's numerical advantage was negated by the Alliance's superior tactics and technology. Swarm ships, their systems corrupted by nanites, began to turn on each other. The once coordinated assault fractured into chaos. Hours passed, the conflict ebbing and flowing across the star system. The Defiant and its allies took losses, each destroyed ship a painful reminder of the cost of survival. But slowly, inexorably, they pushed the swarm back. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of combat, the remains of the swarm fleet began to retreat. The bridge crew of the Defiant watched in exhausted disbelief as their enemies vanished into the depths of space. For a long moment, silence reigned. Then, a cheer went up, starting on the Defiant and spreading to the Illyrian ships. They had done it. Against overwhelming odds, they had prevailed. Sarah allowed herself a moment to savor the victory before turning to her crew. "Well done, everyone. But don't celebrate too hard just yet. This was just one battle in what's likely to be a long war." She looked out at the star-strewn battlefield, her eyes hard with determination. "The swarm will be back, and they'll be even more prepared next time. We need to be ready." Zixara stepped forward, her posture straighter than Sarah had ever seen it. "And we will be, Captain Chen. My people have learned much from yours in these past days. About courage, about innovation, about what it truly means to fight for one's existence." The Illyrian leader's next words sent a ripple of excitement through the bridge. "I have been in contact with our neighboring systems. Word of your valor, of how Earth came to our aid when no one else would, has spread. Others wish to join our alliance." Sarah's eyes widened as she grasped the implications. A united front against the swarm, pooling the resources and knowledge of multiple species. It could change everything. As the Defiant set course for Illyria Prime, Sarah Chen knew that this was more than just a military victory. It was the dawn of a new era for humanity and for the galaxy at large. The road ahead would be difficult, fraught with challenges and sacrifices. But for the first time since the swarm appeared, there was hope. And hope, as humanity had learned in its darkest hours, was the most powerful weapon of all. Turning the tide. The weeks following the Second Battle of Illyria were a whirlwind of activity. The UES Defiant, now the flagship of a growing interstellar alliance, became a symbol of hope and resistance against the swarm threat. Captain Sarah Chen found herself not just a military leader, but a diplomat and strategist on a galactic scale. As the Defiant orbited Illyria Prime, Sarah stood in the newly established war room, surrounded by holographic displays and representatives from a dozen different species. The diversity of life forms would have been breathtaking under different circumstances, but now they were united by a common purpose: survival. The swarm's attack patterns have changed, Sarah explained, manipulating a 3D star map. They're no longer focusing solely on resource-rich worlds. Their targets seem almost random. Zixara, who had become Sarah's closest alien ally, raised a delicate appendage. Could they be searching for something specific? A weapon, perhaps? Before Sarah could respond, the ship's AI, Araya, chimed in. Captain, I've detected a pattern in the swarm's movements. They appear to be following a path that correlates with ancient star charts found in Illyrian archives. All eyes turned to the holographic display as Araya overlaid the swarm's path with a glowing line that wound through the galaxy. Sarah's brow furrowed as she studied the image. What's at the end of this path? She asked. Araya's voice was calm, but there was an undercurrent of concern. Unknown, Captain. The star charts end at a region of space that has been unexplored for millennia. Local legends refer to it as the Void. A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. Sarah caught fragments of whispered conversations. Forbidden Zone, ancient evil, the place where stars die. She raised a hand, silencing the room. Legends and myths won't help us here. We need facts. Dr. Okoye, I want you to work with our ally scientists. Dig into every scrap of information we have about this void. If the swarm is looking for something there, we need to find it first. As the meeting dispersed, Commander Diego Alvarez approached Sarah, his face grim. Captain, we've received a priority message from Earth. The swarm has been spotted at the edge of our home system. Sarah's blood ran cold. Earth, still recovering from its previous war, was in no condition to face the full might of the swarm. She made a quick decision. Set course for the Sol system, maximum warp, and send word to our allies. We're going to need every ship we can muster. The journey to Earth was tense, filled with frantic preparation and strategizing. When the Defiant dropped out of warp at the outskirts of the Sol system, they found a scene of chaos. The remnants of Earth's defense fleet were engaged in a desperate holding action against a massive swarm force. All hands, battle stations, Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her heart. This was more than just another battle. It was a fight for humanity's very birthplace. As the Defiant plunged into the fray, its advanced weapons tearing through swarm ships, Sarah noticed something odd. The enemy's tactics seemed unfocused. They were causing damage, yes, but not with the single-minded efficiency she had come to expect. AI, analysis of swarm behavior, she commanded. The AI's response was quick. Swarm ships appear to be concentrating their scans on Earth's moon, Captain. Their attack on the planet seems to be a diversion. Sarah's mind raced. The moon. What could possibly be there that would interest the swarm? And then it hit her. The lunar archives. Established after the last war as a backup of human knowledge and history, buried deep beneath the lunar surface. They're not here to destroy Earth, she realized aloud. They're looking for information. Lieutenant Tanaka, target their scanner arrays. Disrupt their search patterns at all costs. The battle shifted as the Defiant and its allies focused on protecting the moon. Human ingenuity and alien technology combined in ways never before seen, creating a shield of fire and energy that the swarm struggled to penetrate. Hours passed, the conflict raging across the Sol system. Just when it seemed the defenders might buckle under the relentless assault, a new wave of ships arrived. The Allied fleet Sarah had called for, led by Illyrian vessels. The tide of battle turned. Caught between the determined Earth defense and the newly arrived reinforcements, the swarm began to falter. Ship by ship, they were driven back, until finally the remainder of their fleet retreated in disarray. As the cheers of victory echoed across the comms, Sarah allowed herself a moment of relief. But she knew this was far from over. Whatever the swarm had been looking for, it was clear now that Earth, and perhaps all of humanity, held some key to their plans. In the aftermath of the battle, As repair crews worked to salvage damaged ships and tend to the wounded, Sarah convened an emergency meeting with Earth's leaders and representatives from the Alien Alliance. The swarm's attack on Earth wasn't random, she explained, her voice grave. They were after something specific. Information hidden in our lunar archives. We need to find out what and why it's so important to them. Dr. Amelia Okoye stepped forward, her eyes bright with excitement despite her exhaustion. Captain, I think I found something. Working with the Illyrian scholars, we've uncovered references to an ancient device called the Nexus. It's said to be capable of controlling the very fabric of space-time. A hush fell over the room as the implications sank in. If such a device truly existed, and if the swarm got their hands on it. Sarah's voice cut through the silence, filled with determination. Then we have no choice. We have to find this nexus before the swarm does, even if it means venturing into the void itself. As she looked around the room, at the faces of humans and aliens united in common cause, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. They had faced extinction and survived. They had forged alliances across the stars. And now, they would embark on a quest that could determine the fate of the entire galaxy. The battle for Earth was over, but the true war was just beginning. And humanity, once alone and on the brink of annihilation, now stood at the forefront of the greatest adventure in cosmic history. With a nod to her assembled allies, Sarah Chen gave the order that would echo across the stars. Prepare for departure. We're going to the void. A new era begins. The UES Defiant hung in space at the edge of known territory, its sleek hull gleaming in the light of unfamiliar stars. Behind it, arrayed in a defensive formation, was the combined fleet of the newly formed Galactic Alliance, a hodgepodge of vessels representing a dozen different species, all united against the swarm threat. On the bridge, Captain Sarah Chen stood before the main view screen, her eyes fixed on the swirling darkness ahead. The void. Even the most advanced sensors couldn't penetrate its depths, and the few probes they'd sent in had gone silent almost immediately. Status report, Sarah commanded, her voice steady despite the tension that gripped the ship. Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka responded from her tactical station. All systems nominal, Captain. The fleet is in position and awaiting your orders. Sarah nodded, then turned to her science officer. Dr. Okoye, any luck deciphering more of the ancient texts? Amelia Okoye shook her head, frustration evident in her voice. Nothing concrete, Captain. The references to the Nexus are maddeningly vague. We know it's supposed to be at the heart of the void, but beyond that, she trailed off with a shrug. Well, Sarah said with a grim smile, I suppose we'll have to do this the old-fashioned way. Exploration into the unknown. She keyed the ship-wide comm. All hands, this is the captain. We're about to venture into uncharted space in search of a device that could change the course of this war, and possibly the fate of the galaxy. I won't lie to you. The dangers ahead are unknown and likely severe. But I have faith in this crew, in this ship, and in the alliance we forged. Together, we will face whatever the void throws at us, and we will prevail. With a nod to her helmsman, Sarah gave the command. Take us in 1/4 impulse. Alert the fleet to follow our lead. The Defiant edged forward, the inky blackness of the void swallowing it whole. For a moment, all sensors went dark, and a collective breath was held on bridges across the fleet. Then, slowly, readings began to trickle in. Captain, Raj called out from his communication station. I'm picking up something. It's like no signal I've ever seen before. Before Sarah could respond, the view screen flickered to life, showing a sight that defied comprehension. Massive structures floated in the void, their architecture alien and imposing. Energy pulses of impossible colors arced between them, forming intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change even as they watched. My God, Sarah breathed. What is this place? As if in answer, a new signal cut across all frequencies. A voice, neither male nor female, neither organic nor artificial, spoke directly into their minds. Welcome, children of the stars. We have awaited your arrival for eons." The bridge crew exchanged bewildered glances. Sarah, recovering quickly, stepped forward. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Defiant." "Who? What are you?" The voice resonated again, filled with ancient wisdom and power beyond imagining. "We are the architects, the creators of the Nexus, the shapers of galaxies. We have watched your struggles against the swarm with great interest." Sarah's mind reeled with questions, but one burned brighter than the rest. "The swarm, do you know what they are? Why they're attacking us?" There was a pause, as if the entity was considering its words carefully. "The swarm is our greatest failure, a creation that escaped our control. They seek the Nexus to remake reality in their image, to spread their consumption across all of existence." The implications were staggering. Sarah fought to keep her voice steady. "And the Nexus? Can it be used to stop them?" "Yes," the voice replied, "but at great cost. The power to reshape reality is not to be wielded lightly. Many have sought the Nexus, but none have proven worthy of its power. Until now." A shimmering portal appeared before the Defiant, a gateway deeper into the heart of the void. The voice spoke once more, its tone both a challenge and an invitation. "Enter, if you dare. Face the trials of the Nexus. Prove yourselves worthy of the power to save, or destroy, all of creation." Sarah turned to her crew, seeing in their eyes the same mix of fear and determination that she felt. This was it, the moment that would define not just humanity, but the fate of all sentient life. With a deep breath, she gave the order. "Take us in. Whatever happens, we face it together." As the Defiant passed through the portal, Sarah Chen knew that nothing would ever be the same. They had come seeking a weapon against the swarm, but they had found something far greater and far more dangerous. The trials ahead would test them in ways they couldn't imagine. The power of the Nexus, if they proved worthy of it, would reshape the very fabric of the universe, and the responsibility that came with such power would be a burden unlike any other. But as Sarah looked around at her crew, human and alien alike, united in purpose and spirit, she felt a surge of hope. They had come so far, overcome so much. Whatever challenges the Nexus held, whatever cosmic forces they would have to contend with, she knew they would face them head-on. For in this moment, on the precipice of a new era, Sarah Chen and her allies embodied the very best of what sentient life could be: brave, compassionate, and unbreakable in the face of adversity. As the Defiant ventured deeper into the unknown, the first chapter of their greatest adventure came to a close. But the story of humanity's rise from near extinction to guardians of the galaxy was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. The void embraced them, full of terrors and wonders beyond imagination. And in its depths, the future of all existence hung in the balance, waiting to be shaped by those who dared to reach for it.